Welcome to another fanpub.com video. We're talking AFC East and the Dolphins this time. Sean, what are your thoughts on the Dolphins?
Well, for me, I think this year, the player that I like the most, the good for me, is Jarvis Landry. I know he's not highly fancied by some experts because they're more talking about Devontae Parker, but I like his consistency. I like the way he route runs. I like everything this guy does, and I think his ADP value is perfect. I think it's perfectly fair. He's going round about late round 3, early round 4. I think that's fair value for Jarvis Landry, but I love his upside. You know, a lot of people are going on about Devontae Parker, and I'm sure we will talk about him in a moment, but I really like Jarvis Landry's consistency and what he brings to the football table in terms of professionally as well as fantasy.
Yeah, because he had kind of a flaw with a low touchdown percentage. Well, last year
I say the flaw.
3, didn't he?
Yeah, the flaw comes because of Tannehill from last year. Miami. We have to remember. We have to look at every season with a fresh pair of eyes, and I think what we saw from Jarvis Landry last year was a very consistent player. You know, he actually had 1,100 yards. I think it was 6 touchdowns, actually 5 or 6. If memory serves right, we'd have to check that. But he was very, very consistent at what he did. Yes, it's not top draw fantasy numbers, but if you want a player that's on a climb upwards, he's very, very good. And I think as Miami goes, so does Jarvis Landry. And I like him.
Particularly in PPR, he's going to be
a very sought after player. Yeah, no doubt about it. But that's my take of the good. Who do you feel is a potential bust there?
Obviously, with the running back situation, you've got Foster, Ajayi, and Kenyon Drake. So you've got 3 people there. All could potentially be injury worries.
Are they a bust to you? Do you think all 3 don't work out?
If I could get Arian Foster at the right level, I wouldn't be too bothered, but I wouldn't want to reach, and you know people will in your draft. So
yeah.
I'd say for where he's going to be drafted, because the hype train's going to come into the station for Arian
absolutely
Foster.
And leave
and
really rapidly.
For me, for that reason, he'd probably be the bust at the Dolphins.
I suppose the sneaky pick there is Jay Ajayi still, because his ADP's falling, and to be honest with you, as people are going to rise on Foster's, Jay Ajayi is going to slip off
for that very reason.
And because Foster hasn't proved, shall we say, his ability to stay healthy for long periods of time, then that would mean that Jay Ajayi could be a sneaky pickup, really, couldn't he? I suppose.
Well, exactly right. What do you think about Tannehill as well?
Well, I do like Tannehill for this year. You know, I'm not going to let last year's season cloud my judgment. I'm being realistic here. I think he's a decent QB. He runs well as well. We mustn't lose sight of. I said before about him. You know, he's the kind of quarterback that will get you a sneaky 30 to 40 yards on the ground every single game, which mitigates some of the mistakes. You know, when you have the odd interception, it takes 2 points off your fantasy team. Those kind of players mitigate them, and that means all their fantasy numbers are relevant. So I really like him for this year, and I think because of weapons like Parker coming through, I think an improved running game. You know, I actually like some of the pieces. I'm not saying their running game is going to be better than Lamar Miller, but I think combined, I think there's something in that game that could prove useful to them. And I like the fact they're going to have to air the ball out a lot. So from a fantasy perspective, I think Tannehill would be a good round shot. Not early, maybe a second quarterback. Why not?
They're in the draft, I suppose. Well, he's not really going to cost you a lot.
Not going to cost you a lot.
And a lot of people's draft strategy is to draft quarterbacks late. So if you want to take a second one, then
he's a good second, I would say.
Then why not?
Get the right matchup and the right players on your team is certainly worth a shot.
You've got Kenny Stills there.
I've got mixed feelings about Kenny Stills. I think he's a product of the New Orleans system rather than actually being a product of being a great player.
And you've got Leonte Carrou, who's obviously
I'm more intrigued to take a look at Leonte Carrou.
He's got some interesting sort of...
late in a draft board as a deep round flyer. You know, I'd be interested to have a little look, see what he can do. But it'll be a tough one to break into. You've already got 2 players there. Jarvis Landry. You've already got Devontae Parker, who did very well at the end of last year. I would think he'd struggle to find 3, you know, them playing 3 wide receivers all the time. That's not likely to happen.
Jordan Cameron, briefly.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it at all really from him this year as a tight end, and I'm avoiding, like I did, still avoiding. I'm afraid I don't see anything there. I'm afraid. So that's my take on Miami. Any final thoughts?
Just looked at Jarvis Landry, and he did have 4 touchdowns last year. 2 against Houston, 1 against Philadelphia, and 1 at the Jets.
And he also got a couple of punt returns as well.
Yeah, he's a good punt returner, but he adds to his injury risk as well.
It does. It does.
Yeah. He's certainly a player we like because he's a talented guy.
Very talented. Yeah, good take. Good take.
That concludes our report on the Dolphins.